And we're live. Welcome, everyone, to episode 82 of the Friendly Ex-Muslim podcast. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Bay Yaqeen Banda. So, how's it going, Bay?
Doing great.
Good, good, good. You want to?
Excited to talk to you, man.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while. We were planning this for a long time. So, just a little bit of history. I've been friends with Bay on Facebook for the longest time. And, over the years, he's finally, things have got to a situation now where he was able to come out and talk about these things publicly. So I'm so excited about that because the more
Yeah,
voices we have.
I'm so excited. I put a button down shirt for you, your audience.
Awesome. So let's start with what's the name? What does that mean? Bay Yaqeen. What does that
Being
even mean?
Yaqeen is just a play on the word. Like,
Yeah.
you've heard of Yaqeen Institute,
Yeah.
the Belief Institute. Bay just means not believing. So Yaqeen means belief in Urdu. So Bay Yaqeen means a person who doesn't believe.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So before we actually get into the actual interview, I wanted to talk about something that happened to me yesterday. And I know you actually had a similar experience as well. So I wanted you to share
Oh,
that
yeah,
as
yeah.
well. What happened with, so I was invited by someone on Twitter, like a Muslim guy that's been discussing with me in DMs. And he's like, obviously he doesn't like what I'm doing. He's not happy with my content. And he's like, oh, why don't you go talk to these guys? And I was like, yeah, I don't think it's going to go well. Last time I was invited to SC Dawa, they didn't invite me. And so what's the point? He's like, no, they'll be respectful. It's just go see what it's like. And I'm like, okay. I went, and they were like having this chat. Muhammad Hijab was there, Hamza, who runs the channel, Hamza's Den was there, and all these guys. And so I clicked on this, and everyone in the comments like, oh, Abdullah Samir is here, come on, coward, join, come on, what are you scared of? Last time you complained SC Dawa didn't let you on, come on, guys. And then finally I did join, and they kicked me out. They kicked me out of the stream. So I was like, what's going on here? And you apparently had the same experience, right? And
Oh man,
I
I've had
want to
that
find.
experience multiple times with them because they have multiple channels. Like
Yeah.
SC Dawa has like Hamza Den and then Imran Epistemic and Sabur Ahmad, Darwin Delusion. There's a whole bunch of different channels that they run, right? And they do
Yes.
these things all the time. So I went to their channel, and initially what it was is that I would ask a question, and as soon as I would ask a question, they would mute me and say, okay, oh, I got your question, and then take me out of the stream, because they're only looking, like on some of the channel, they're only looking for a more like an echo chamber, because it's a dawa training classes. They do
Hmm.
dawa training, so they want to train their people what to say. So when people come on, they just want to train them. Hey, say this, what amazing religion, blah blah blah, right? But then whenever you have a counterpoint on that, now they have to really justify it, and it throws a wrench in the whole dawa training thing. So they don't want too much of the counter questions. So
Yeah.
initially I was like, okay, yeah, they took me out. Then a couple of times I went there, and they wouldn't even take me on. And then
Oh.
one time I went on the channel. They asked me, I asked the question, and then there were like four or five of them. So they dismissed the question that I asked and started asking, so why did you leave religion? What this? What do you think? I'm like, this was a floor open for questions, right? I asked you a question, you didn't even answer that question. You just like totally dismissed that question and started asking other things. And I was like, I'm fine with answering your questions, but that this is not the place and time for that, because this is basically distracting from the actual point of the God. Oh, no, 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 no. And then out of the stream. So okay, no problem. But this last one, what happened is they took me on. I got on in. I started asking a question, and while I'm asking a question, I can see Hamza Den, the orange looking guy. So
Yeah.
that guy went and started checking my channel because my name was there. So he checked out my channel. As soon as he's checked my channel, he comes back on, mutes me, and then kicks me off the stream. Right? I was like, wow, that's weird. And then to his credit, he comes on like after they finished talking like for 10 minutes about different things. They're like, guys, just to let you know, he didn't drop off. I kicked him out. I kicked him out of the stream. And they're like, the reason is we don't promote these sort of things on. I don't want to give him a platform on my channel. He's this and that, and he's made a reaction video about me. So
Oh,
yeah,
can so Bay, just one moment. My Chrome is kind of hung up while I was trying to share the stream.
mhm.
If you want to just start introducing yourself,
Okay,
I'm gonna join back right away.
no problem. I'll give the quick introduction and then
Okay.
okay. So I would be considered an agnostic Muslim. Basically, my background is from Pakistan. I live, excuse me. So I'm 45, married with 3 kids, living in America, New York, and basically, just I'll talk about my journey, about what happened. But basically, on this plat, what am I here for? Why am I doing this? My point is that for a long time I was one of those people that had a lot of doubts about the religion, a lot of questions. My background is engineering, so right away everything has to be logical, and if it's not logical, it just sticks in your brain, and it just keeps that, rolling around in your brain. That's like, why, why is that, that thing doesn't make sense. Then, so slowly the doubts got to a point where I had to do something, and I'll tell you exactly, as we're talking, what happened and
Hmm.
all that stuff. But
Let's
yeah,
let's
my
go
whole
back
thing is to
to
help
yeah.
people who don't have a voice, because I'm
Mm,
from Pakistan, and people who are agnostic or atheists or something in Pakistan, they're really persecuted really bad. So they don't have a voice there. They have a blasphemy law in Pakistan. So if they say it out openly, they could be charged, and capital punishment for those guys. So maybe using my freedom in the US and all that, I can do something on my part to at least give them some voice.
mm. So one thing that's right away interesting about you and me, both of us, is we both break the common Muslim trope that you guys left Islam to sin. Both of us, both of us are
You
middle
don't know how
aged.
many times I heard that.
Even you, which
Oh
is
my
funny.
God. I mean, I literally get that as like, why are you not smoking? Why aren't you doing drugs? Why aren't you having sex with all these random women now that you live? It's like, what planet do you live? Like, what is in your mind that, like, just because I don't believe one X narrative, I'm just gonna be like, you just go out and do crazy. It's like, what is wrong with some people sometimes?
Yeah, they don't realize that we're living the lives we want to live.
Yeah.
This is the life I want to live. It's not that I can't do all those crazy things, like break up with my wife, go clubbing, go
Mm,
crazy, drinking alcohol. Although I have drank alcohol, I have it once in a while. I don't think it's the best thing in the world, but once in a
mm,
while, it's nice. Same with weed. It's not like I would stop believing in God for that.
mm. No, I
But
think
bacon,
I think that this comes from a certain place. Like when they are Muslim, right? They are
yeah,
told, they are kept away from all of this stuff, right? They can't drink alcohol, they can't do
yeah,
pork, eat pork, they can't go to clubbing. Like all of these restrictions are placed. So in their mind, they feel like Islam is the only thing that's keeping them away from all these evil. And if Islam wasn't there, they would just do all of these evils. So they, under their worldview, the minute you don't have Islam, that means that's what the guy is gonna end up doing anyway. But they don't, you know. So that's where that is coming from. And just before we do anything, I gotta tell you, Sami, I've been following you for a long time. And one of the earliest videos you made, of like the first one, with the why I left Islam, that was one of the pivotal videos that I've watched. Like, I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, so I just went from all the way from left to right and went through everything, all the material that I could get. And your videos were one of the pivotal ones, because see, there's so many voices out there, right? And some of the voices you relate to, some of the voices you don't relate to, but at the same time you give them the right to have that voice. Like, okay, your style is different about handling social injustice, and this person's voice is different. Fine, they have their own way. But one of the things about your way of conversating and your way of activism is that it resonates with me. That's the sort of activism I would like to do. Calm, collected, not insulting, not like, you this and that. At the same time, you can make a jab here and there and all that intellectually, and that's all fine, but not like. And one of the key, if I want to tell you about that video, the video in which you were with David and AP,
AP. Yeah.
and that was one of the videos I saw you. Like,
Mhm.
I know that's not your style for
Yeah.
tearing the Quran and all that. And
Yeah.
when he did that, your face was like, why am I here? That's see, the thing is, he cursed your wife,
Yeah.
but you didn't go back and like, okay, your wife is
Yeah.
this and your mother is this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
act it up on like your mother this and that, right? And the other
Yeah.
people said all these weird things about your family. You didn't go
Yeah.
back and like, well, your family. That's the difference,
Yeah.
right? That's the
Yeah.
difference. So I saw your face, and you were like a little bit uncomfortable, like,
Yeah. I was.
you know.
Yeah.
But I,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
That's very nice of you to say that. I mean, I do appreciate that, and I'm happy that my what I did resonated with people, because obviously before I was a Muslim and I was promoting Islam, so I do need to. I felt like in a way responsible to tell people that, well, what I was doing was incorrect,
Mhm.
and so and yeah, like you said about a lot of times I hear from even ex-Muslims that, well, in Muslim countries, they'll do this and this and this. And I always ask them, like, so that's your moral standard now? Like you're basing your how you're gonna be treat other people based on how they treat you? Like you're gonna basically go down to the level.
Mhm.
And then what are you standing up for then? What's your like how are you any better than them if you are going to do the same thing? And yeah, for sure, um, it's like ridiculous to think that Muslims are claiming that their standard is way better than ours, whereas a lot of the times they're just getting down in the gutter and they're doing all of these terrible things because they justify it according to the religion that this is an enemy of Allah, so we can dox him, post his information online, we can scare him, threaten him, do all these bad things. They consider it okay even in the religion. And there was an interesting TikTok I was watching by an ex-Christian lady who said, I'm not like I'm not saying that I left Christianity because some of the Christians treated me badly
Mhm.
because they didn't live up to the standards. I left Christianity because they did live up to the standards, and the standards, some of them are like including like like some of the things I just mentioned, like Muhammad Hijab. Obviously, he was forced to apologize for all of the things he said, but he saw no problem with that because he's like, yeah, I'm just teaching them a lesson or whatever. And so yeah, that's unfortunate for sure. But yeah, I do appreciate. Thank you for the kind words, and I hope that what you're doing. So those of you who don't know, Bay Yaqeen has a channel, so you can check it out. I didn't post the link, so I'll post the link as well. But you can. Oh no, I think I did. I did post the link. You can look him up, Bay Yaqeen, on YouTube. So do subscribe to him as well.
Mhm.
So Bay, now that we've kind of talked about that, let's talk about your background a bit. So did you grow up in Pakistan?
I grew up I was born in Pakistan, lived there for like 6, 7 years, and then we moved to the Middle East. We moved to Bahrain. I don't know if you're familiar with that area. Bahrain is like little tiny island in the Middle East, and that's where I grew up. But in Bahrain, there were so many Pakistanis and Indians and all that that it was almost a parallel community. There was a whole big community of Pakistanis, and you just basically lived within that community. You had your own schools, you had your own everything. So I grew up there, and even my education was from the Pakistani board. All the books and everything came from Pakistan, and we would do that. So I did that till my 12th grade and all that, and after that, I ended up coming to US, and then I came here on a student. I came here as a visiting person. So we, after visiting for a little bit, then I changed my visa to student, and then I stayed here as a student, and then forward going on. So that's basically where my family is religious, like not like, oh my god, crazy, but like praying 5 times a day and Jummah and Eid and all that regular stuff that Pakistanis do. We weren't like hardcore group type people, like, okay, this is a Salafi and this is a. I didn't even know about any of that stuff until I came here. Because we never grew up in Pakistan, so I didn't know they were. Firqa, just like how
Yeah, all the little sects. Yeah.
I didn't even know about Ismailis, and I didn't know anything about
Yeah.
Ahmadis, none of that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I found that later on when I did, find it out. So
So when you came to America, you were still religious
oh
Pakistani
yeah,
Muslim.
I've been in US well over 25, 20 something years. So this is when I came in and I started college over here, school over, not school, college over here, and then all that stuff. So I was still religious, doing my regular thing, but not like hardcore religious, praying a couple of times a day, maybe 3 times a day, whenever you get a chance. Always missing the Fajr Salah for some reason, can't get up in the morning. So like that sort of thing. And then Jummah and all that stuff was a definite had to do no matter what, no matter where you were, office, job, no matter what, you have to go for your Jummah prayer with the masjid. So I literally, wherever I had a job, I would talk to the manager and set up my lunch break. I would miss one lunch break for one day and then combine 2 lunch breaks for the Friday day and take like the whole
Mm.
1 hour and then go because I had to drive to the masjid and come back and all that stuff. So yeah, just like a regular Muslim and doing all that. But my I'll tell you the first shock that I got. Like everything was fine, cognitive dissonance, everything. Just leave it alone, because as a Pakistani Muslim, you are basically as an average. I'm not talking about the really hardcore who study and all that. I never did heavy duty studying before this. The first time I got hit is when I was listening to a khutbah in the masjid, and instead of the regular old dude with a beard, they ended up bringing a young guy, you know, and the young guy started doing his khutbah, and you know how the young guys, and he said something, and he said, "Oh, I don't care if they call the prophet a pedophile. So what, I said, who calls the prophet a pedophile? I had no idea. It's like, yeah, because he married Aisha. I was like, yeah, he married Aisha. So what's the, and Aisha was 6 when he married. Whoa, what? And it's like, yeah, he married her 6 and he had, consummated the marriage when he was 9. I had no idea. I never even, like, I just knew that Aisha was it. So I was like, no, this guy is lying. The hell is he talking about? He can't talk about prophet like that. I was like, that way. So that was the first time. I was like, no, I got to check this out. Is this true or not? So I went back to the sources and did the search on the computer. It's like, yeah, that's true. So that was the first time I was like, because I had this perfect image of Muhammad, like nothing can be off center for this guy. So when I heard that, it just like, wait a second, that doesn't fit his profile that I have in my mind. So I was like, all right, no problem. Then then another thing that happened is I think I wrote, oh yeah, another khutbah I was listening and they talked about sex slaves. I'm like, yeah, he's gonna, and then he's like, yeah, because Islam. I'm like, wait a second, Islam says it's okay to do that. I had no idea. I'm telling you honestly, I had no idea about all of these things, right? Because we only get the sweet, sugar-coated stuff on the masjids and khutbahs, so we never get the hardcore stuff. So he said something like that. I said, no, I got to check this out if it's true or not. So I check it out, Banu Qurayza and the wars and how the war booty is distributed and women. I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea this happened in that time. So that was another like shock to the system. And the third shock I got is at my college, I went to the library. And when I was at the library, I met this guy and he's like, oh, I'm from Egypt. My name is something Yusuf or something. I'm like, oh, salam alaikum. He said, no, I'm not Muslim. I'm like, what do you mean? You said you're Yusuf, you're from Egypt. Aren't you Muslim? He's like, no, I was Muslim. I left the religion. Like, what? Never heard that before. Never. I was like, what do you mean left the religion? What does that even mean? I was like, oh yeah, I'm not Muslim anymore. I'm like, no, that you can't do that. That doesn't. I never heard that, right? So I was like, you can actually leave Islam because till that point, all I've seen is Zakir Naik converting everybody to Islam.
Yeah.
Never seen anything where Muslims are leaving their religion, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, that was another shock to my system. Like, what do you mean? There are people who actually leave this religion? This is the truth. How can
So
they leave?
this guy, like I'm surprised he actually openly said that he's an ex-Muslim. He was
No, he
okay
didn't say
with,
ex-Muslim. He didn't say the word because I don't
yeah,
think that word was even used at that time.
yeah, yeah.
He just like, yeah, I don't believe that. I'm gonna,
So he was one of those people that like he grew up Muslim and then
yeah.
he never, okay, yeah, the ex-Muslim label, I think that was a really, really bold move by
Yeah.
maybe Miriam Namazi and
Yeah.
ex-Muslims in North
Because before
America.
that time, you never heard that phrase. That phrase was
Yeah,
not even in circulation. So when
yeah,
he
yeah,
said
yeah,
it, he's like, I'm like, you left? I mean,
yeah.
because imagine if you don't even think you can leave. Like why would you leave something that's true? Because to a
Yeah,
Muslim, this is the fact. This is the
yeah,
only true religion. So
yeah.
how can you? So those are the things that hit me. And then just like anything, I was like, okay, just put it to the side. Just you don't want to burn in hell, so don't put doubts in your mind and all that stuff. So I kept doing that for a while. And then I'll tell you the real turning point happened is me and my wife, we end up going to a lot of travel, different countries. So whenever I go to travel, before I go to the travel, I do research for that place. So we were going to Jerusalem and Masjid Al-Aqsa and Jordan and all that stuff, right? So we had a whole tour set up. And here's the fun part. Guess who the tour was set up with? Yasir
Whoa.
Qadhi.
Oh,
He was our sheikh of
yeah.
the tour.
Nice.
Yeah, so he was in our group, and he was the one who's gonna show us all the stuff and all that stuff. He has these tour
Yeah, he makes a lot of money
tours.
off
So
doing
we
stuff
were,
like this.
yeah, so we were like, okay, cool, that's gonna be good. So we ended up going to Jordan and then Petra. We saw the whole Petra place and Masjid Aqsa, Jerusalem, and the all the stuff in Israel and all that stuff. But before I went there, I did a lot of research on Jerusalem and did a lot of research on especially Petra. And a lot of things came up which I had no idea about. And that's where I ran into Jay Smith and Dan Gibson stuff. And that was like, they have this whole different narrative that's coming out from this side that Petra was over here, and none of the thing description of Makkah doesn't match what it is in the Hadith and this and that. I was like, no, this is all lies. He's just making this stuff up. But what happened when I went to Petra, some of the things that they were talking about actually were true because there is a Makkah, there is a Kaaba in Petra. It's like completely just like that, a stone cube, and people used to go around it and do tawaf and all that stuff. And a lot of the descriptions of Hajj and everything matches what was in Petra also. So that was like kind of shock to the system. Like, wait a second, he wasn't lying. Because until that time, you're always told anybody who says anything against Islam is a lie. You don't trust them, don't listen to them.
Yeah, yeah,
But then when you hear something and it actually turns out to be true, it's like, whoa, wait a second, he wasn't lying about it.
yeah.
So that's what got me a little bit interested in it. It's like, so I came back. When I came back, I said, okay, let me do some more research on this. So I started listening to different sources, and that's when I ran into Sam Harris, the Four Horsemen, on all those guys, and I started listening to them. It's like, wow, they make a lot of sense for a logical mind. They make a lot of sense. And then I was like, okay, shut it down. Let's go to the Muslim side. So I started doing Zakir Naik, Brother Ibrahim. Who else was there?
Yeah.
They had Yasir Qadhi, Noman Ali Khan, Mufti Menk. So I just overdosed on their videos. I'm like, these guys are putting too much doubt in my mind. I need to clean my doubt. So I ended up
Yeah.
and then my wife was like, there's a lot of lectures going on. So I ended up signing up for a lot of these weekend classes. I have a couple of books of it. This is a Maghrib class.
Oh, you went to Al Maghrib?
Yeah, I went to a bunch of Maghrib classes. This one.
I was big into Al Maghrib as well. I went to the very first class in Canada.
I'm actually a Ravi. Look at that. Certified Hadith. I'm one of the chains in the Hadith. So we went to one of the Hadith class, and we were talking about Sahih Muslim. He like a whole week Hadith class, and then in the end, he's like, "I'm going to tell you a Hadith, and then memorize this Hadith." I'm like, "Okay." So you memorize the Hadith, and he asks you to repeat back and forth, and finally, when everything is done, I'm a certified Ravi in the chain of that Hadith now. I can transmit that reliably. I have a certificate of that Hadith.
Yeah, that's funny.
The
Al Maghrib classes were interesting because it was one weekend and it was Salafi, so it was definitely very, very Salafi teachings. I went to Yasir Qadhi as well, Muhammad al Sharif, and some of the other ones. They appeal to like the younger crowd. They appeal to this I say progressive, but I don't mean progressive because they're very Salafi, so they're not progressive at all. But they use it like a lot of like modern.
Use a lot of justification. See, the thing is, when you talk to some of the Maulvis from Pakistan and India, they don't justify anything. They just like, this is how it is. That's it. Just either you believe or you're a kafir. That's how it is. But at least with Noman Ali Khan, Yasir Qadhi, they contextualize the statement. It's like, okay, well, slavery was there, but the reason slavery was there is because XYZ. And then Noman Ali Khan, I mean, you saw the video where he's like beating his wife worse. He's like, can you understand the severity of that ayat that he's talking about this? Like, this is not even a thing. He contextualizes it, makes it. So that is much more what I want to listen to instead of just like, Yeah, Allah said you can beat your wife, but just beat your wife, no problem. That's doesn't make sense to me. So that's
Yeah.
basically where it started. So I overdosed on all of that, but still, kept listening to some other stuff also online. I mean, I have it written down. I'm gonna give credit to all of these. Okay, I'm just gonna give credit to all of these guys that started. Okay, Abdullah Samir, right off the bat, right? Jay Smith, masked Arab, Hassan Radwan, the main man, that like Hassan Radwan, right? That's the main guy. He was amazing. Sharif Gabir from Egypt,
Yeah.
okay? David Wood, Atheist Experience, Matt Dillahunty, Cosmic Skeptic, the Four Horsemen, Harari, the book, Sapien.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to give credit to all of these guys,
Oh yeah.
and also I want to give credit to Tariq Jamil, Maulana Tariq Masood, Zakir Naik, Muhammad Ali, Numan Ali Khan, Yasir Qadhi, Mufti Meg, Asidawa, Speaker Corner, Muhammad Hijab. Uh, I want to give credit to them. Hamza Zorses,
Credit for what?
credit for giving an alternate view. Like you don't want to be just one-sided, right? You want to
Yeah.
hear the other side and you want to hear this side. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be super biased and be like, okay, I'm only going to listen to the atheist side and not this.
Yeah.
So I went through all, and the main guy, oh, I forgot this guy, Engineer Mirza from Pakistan. Oh my God, that guy is the bomb. Like, yeah, he's in Urdu, a lot of stuff, but he's basically against all the firqas in Pakistan. He's like,
Oh,
stop all of these segmentation, just bring everybody back to one book and the prophet. Forget
okay.
about all these sections and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I like his stuff. So I did all of this. So
So I want to ask you about this. Before you continue. When you were in this phase of like leading both, watching Zakir Naik and also watching like Sam Harris, what did you think? Like, how did you feel when you saw like, to
Well,
these two different?
when I saw Zakir Naik, I was super impressed with his memory.
Yeah.
I number 72.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Like for every reference. But then when I saw some of the counterclaims, like a lot of stuff he's saying is wrong, even though the ayah number is correct, but the references he's giving, he's messing that. Like the reference he gives that Muhammad is in the Bible. He gives
Yeah.
one line from the Bible, right? So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's pretty impressive. Oh,
Yeah.
I will send you a comforter. Okay.
Yeah.
But then when you actually analyze the whole paragraph, he's talking about the Holy Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, if you actually believe that as Muhammad is what's mentioned, you're telling Muhammad is the Holy Ghost. You're affirming the Trinity.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So,
There's a very old video that I think David Wood or Fahan, Nabil Qureshi made, where I think it was David Wood, where it's like 22 mistakes 22 mistakes Zakir Naik made, and it's like one after another. He even like makes mistakes on evolution, not just Islam. Like he's misquoting random things.
I'm a medical doctor. You can't say I made a mistake. I'm a medical doctor.
Yeah, when I compare the two, let me tell you.
Shout out to Vidu Vids. His funny videos. Yeah.
When I first started like watching these people like Sam Harris and these, the thing I noted, and so especially Matt Dillahunty, like when I compare what Matt Dillahunty was saying to going back now to Hamza Yusuf, because I had this one Muslim woman on on Facebook. She was like sending these Muslim things to watch, and I was like, oh, I don't want to watch like 60-minute videos. That's why I made 10-minute videos, so people can watch 10 minutes. Nobody wants to watch long rambling lectures for like hours and hours. Interviews are different, but like this is like, so she sent me this 30-minute lecture of Hamza Yusuf, and I was watching it, and I'm thinking, I used to be impressed by this guy when I was like, he sounded intelligent, but the things he's saying, they're like mediocre, like theist arguments
sophistry,
that are
like
easy to
sophistry, like the amazingness of God will bless you, and it's all like, it's more sophistry in that sense.
And even the analogies he's making, for example, he's saying like even the arguments he makes, they're so outdated. Like this is why, I mean, some Muslims were laughing at me for saying this, but this is why I think like Christian apologetics are way ahead of Islam, because like you have William Lane Craig, you have Dr. Hugh Ross. These are the leaders of the Christian, I don't know what to call it, like the anti-atheist movement, let's call it, in Christianity. If you look at what we have in the Muslim community, yes, apologetics. If you look at the equivalent in the Muslim community, it's like Shabir Ali, it's like, he's good. And then you have like Hamza Soitis, and these guys are basically like they're like way behind in the argumentation and the arguments that they make. And then if you look at like Hamza Yusuf and like Yasir Qadhi, and these guys are like, yeah, at least Yasir Qadhi is trying to catch up, but like they're way out of date. Like the stuff they're making has been debunked by atheists like 100 years ago. Like Christian apologists don't even use those arguments anymore because they're like so like weak. They just sound good. You know what I mean?
The thing I think they are hamstruck by the Quran. Basically, the problem is,
Yeah.
as a Christian apologist, they can always say, "Well, it's a man-made book, right?" So there's difference in say, and its interpretation is different. But with the Quran, it's a little bit different because as a Quran, it's considered the actual word of Allah, right? So then it's very hard to change anything or do anything past the original scholars, the Sahabas and the early tafsir. They have to go. They can't say the early tafsir was wrong, right? It's
Yeah.
oh, how can you say Tabri was wrong? How can you say Ibn Kathir was wrong? All of these people. So since they cannot say they were wrong, they have to make an alternate explanation. But when they make the alternate explanation, they have to put the caveat. No, they were right also, and we are right also. So then it becomes a jumble of mix. Like, yeah, well, if you look at it this way, flat Earth can be justified, and
Yeah.
that's what they thought. But we
Yeah.
all know it's not flat; it's round. Like now, you can't put your feet in both ships and try to be like, yeah, well, if you look at it that way, stones and like meteorites can be pelleted toward the jinn. We just don't know. But
Yeah.
we all know what meteorites are, and
Yeah.
like that doesn't make like I've seen some of the Muhammad hijab's videos. Like
Yeah.
you justify the authentic original Islamic sources, and they all say this other stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
like, well, we can't dismiss that, right? That's
Yeah.
still valid. But we all know this is how it is. The earth moves around the sun and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
I think
yeah.
there's a lot more material to work with the Bible, I think, and compared to the Quran, like you said. And I do think that, to be honest, I think another reason is not just that. I think it's because they've had longer to do so. They're ahead of the game
Mhm.
because look at Christianity. Like atheism has been challenging Christianity for so long, yet like they've accepted that now. They're not trying to kill atheists.
I think they're just further down the road. Like I would say
Exactly.
they are where Islam will be in 100 years, maybe, or maybe 50 years. I don't
Yeah.
know how
Yeah.
how big the ex-Muslim movement go, but maybe
Yeah.
50 years or 100 years down the road, you're gonna have Muslim apologists talking in the same level as the Christian apologist and the atheists are debating. They'll talk in the same level. Right now
Exactly.
they're not there.
Yeah.
But let me just finish up my story with that. I
Yep.
went back into the books and all that, but since I'm reading the Islamic side and I'm reading the other side also. It's giving me a lot of doubts. To a point, as the last part, I was getting up to my head with that. Like I had so many questions, so many, and then I started talking to muftis. I was like, okay. I told my wife, I told my friends, whoever like, listen, I'm having a lot of doubts about Islam. I need to ask somebody because I would ask them, is like, ask a mufti, ask a sheikh what they say about it. So I said, okay, let me ask a sheikh. Get me in touch with any other sheikhs. So I got in touch with all the Al Yaqeen Institute sheikhs, some of the ones that you see in the lectures. I went to them, I went to Pennsylvania just so I could sit with them and ask them these questions. So I ended up going to all these different sheikhs and spent like two-hour sessions with them, sitting, asking them questions like, what about this? What about that? But their answers were not intellectually satisfying, you know? So I came back to New York and I made a decision. I said, my wife said, what do you want to do? Well, my wife didn't know that. So she said, we have some time off, 2, 3 weeks of vacation. What do you want to do? So I said, let's go for Hajj. So I said, that'll be my
You
last.
wanted to go for Hajj
Yeah.
after having.
Yeah. I said, you know what? If Islam is true, Hajj would clear all of this from my brain. I mean, if nobody else can do it, Allah can do it at the Kaaba. I mean, like,
Wow.
that was my thing, right? I was like, what extreme thing I can do to clear all this stuff from my head. And if I go to Khana Kaaba and I would pray in front of the God, like in front of
Yeah.
Kaaba, and like
Yes. Yes.
pour my heart out, like, listen, God, if you're there, just take all this crap out of my brain. I don't want to have this doubts in my brain. I said, okay. So the prices were exorbitant. As you know, Hajj is super expensive.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how much did you end up paying for that?
I ended up paying a lot. So, I mean, no, not the super luxury, but in the middle. But even in the middle, you're talking about thousands of
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah, tens of thousands.
Tens of
Yeah,
thousands of dollars.
yeah,
So he said, all right, fine. I took the savings out, took the money, da da da. And it's like, all right, we're going for Hajj. This is my last resort. I gotta get this straightened out, from my system. So me and my wife went for Hajj, and we did the Hajj. And I mean, I'm getting emotional, but I stood in Kaaba for hour, just like praying, crying, like, come on, take this out of my system. I don't want these doubts in my system. You are there. If you are true, you're here. I'm here for you. Tell me, clear my brain for these things. So, and that was my last resort. But it just felt like I was in the wrong place. Like I'm like in a movie. I see all these people going around. Um, See these people going around the Kaaba. I see them running from one stone to another, doing all this, like, and then the sacrifice of the lamb. It just felt like, what is this? Like, what is all like? This is just your brain. You're just compensating for the answer you don't have. Why are we here? That one answer, who are we? And because of that one question that people can't answer, we have all these hundreds of religions and systems of all these beliefs and all that stuff, just because of one simple question that we can't answer. Why are we here? On a like existential questions. And
yeah.
because and then I was like, I did everything I could at the Hajj. You did everything. I, stayed in the camps and all that, Safa Marwa and all that stuff. You've been to
I did
Umrah, right?
no Umrah. Yeah,
Yeah, I've done a whole bunch of Umrahs too, but Hajj was like the big daddy.
yeah.
So I said, if anything can change my mind, it's going to be Hajj. When I came back, it didn't change my heart. You know, it basically kind of showed me the reality of what the Hajj was. And I was like, no, this doesn't make any sense to me. And then I just like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna study. That's the problem. The problem is studying knowledge. I need to get knowledge. So I ended up reading the Quran with translation first. Then I read a different translation because that one was a little bit difficult. So it's an easy Quran. Let's read that. Then I read Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, some of the Tabri's tafsir, things like that. And the more I read, the more my doubt increased. It was so funny because the less you know, the more ignorance is bliss. The less you know, the better you are off. But the more you know about the Islamic sources, the more you know about their history, especially what happened after the death of the Prophet and Aisha fighting Ali and the wars of Rida. Like people, the day the Prophet died, within that week, tons of tribes apostatized.
Apostatized. Yeah,
Yeah, they said that we only gave bath to the prophet. He's
Bayah.
not,
Yeah,
yeah, Bear. We
yeah.
only gave,
Allegiance. Yeah,
yeah, allegiance to the prophet. Prophet is not there. We don't owe you any allegiance. And the key issue was zakat, because they
yeah,
had to give zakat to the Baitul Mal.
yeah.
And they
To the
all,
treasury of the
yeah,
Muslims.
so they all
Yeah,
apostatized, say, we're not going to give zakat anymore because it's all
yeah,
about money, right? Everything is
yeah,
about money.
yeah.
So the minute the money stopped, all of a sudden Abu Bakr is like, oh, hell no, you guys got to come back in. And he sent all these
Armies.
armies to get them back
Yeah.
into the system. So, I mean, and
And
then
and by the way, there's an interesting little side note there that this shows you that anyone that doesn't pay
I have
any
to drink some water. Yeah.
yeah, that's another side point there is that anyone that basically that's another proof that apostates are killed, because he said that you guys are apostates because you're not paying the zakat, and the zakat is not 2.5% like people think it is today. There's like a whole formula that if you have so many goats, you give this many goats, and you have this sheep, and you give this many sheeps, and whatever. And then yeah, on cash it's 2.5%. But yeah, it's a significant amount of money that's sent from the different people back to the Baitul Mal, which is a Muslim treasury. And so he fought them and he got them back in line, right? That was the end of the story.
Well, it's really, they didn't really have a choice. You sent this army like, either come back to Islam or we're gonna kill you. I'm like,
Yeah.
let me see, death, or just say I'm back in Islam. Like, I mean, like, hello.
Yeah. Very,
Yeah.
very peaceful way to spread the religion.
Yeah. So then that's what basically tipped the tipping point. And then I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm just gonna do the research, and then I listened to your videos and all these other videos and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay. And then I started. I opened a Facebook page my
Oh
separate
yes.
Bay Yaqeen Facebook page. And it's like, okay, I have no outlet because everybody else in my family is all Muslim. My in-laws are Muslim. My side, my wife is a hijabi, 5 time prayers, all that stuff. So can't talk to her.
Hmm.
My kids are growing up Muslim. They have Quran class, then they have Quran lecture class, and then they have the Qaeda class. So all that stuff is happening. And at that time, they were also in Islamic class, school.
Yeah.
So they're
What? So for people who don't know, what's Qaeda? It's not Al Qaeda.
no. Qaeda is the book. Qaeda in Urdu, you say Qaeda is like a book is
The
called.
letters.
Yeah,
The letters.
you know the for my youngest daughter, she's a alif ba ta sa.
Okay, the letters. Yeah,
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 yeah. So yeah, so I couldn't communicate with anybody. So I said,
yeah,
okay, I need an outlet. I need a diary, like my little diary, where I can speak my thoughts. So I opened my Bay Yaqeen page on Facebook and started talking to people and chatting back and forth. And I didn't even think about YouTube or anything. But then I saw a lot of people like you doing the activism. So I said, okay, let me do my part. I just took off my face and just made videos without the face and all that stuff. So at least I can do my part. But finally, I realized, like, you know what, enough is enough. I should take some risks too. You know, it's a big risk. I mean, on my part, especially with the, I mean, you might see my channel right now. Maybe whatever happens later on, all of a sudden one day you might not see my channel. Boom, it'll be gone, and it could be taken down by Pakistan board because they send out all these requests to YouTube to take down channels and all that. So I don't know, but at least
yeah.
as much as
Well,
I can do.
they they take down channels. The way that they take down the channels is they take it down in that locality only. They can't take it down universally. So like it'll still show up in like the US, it'll still show up in Canada and everywhere else.
Yeah,
Unless
but
of course
no,
you
I'm
have to
talking
take
about
it down.
taking it down by strikes. What they do is they
Oh,
get this whole group of people. There's like whole huge like thousands of groups in Facebook, and their whole purpose is to take down channels that are anti-Islamic or critical of Islam. So what they do is they have a coordinated way. They take your site and they strike from multiple different accounts. Okay, strike on this video or hate speech on this video, and YouTube is all about algorithms. And if
yeah,
they see enough people reporting this and that, they're like, oh, something is wrong. And the computer would turn it off before
yeah,
any human even looks at it. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you have plenty of experience with that. I'm preaching to the choir over here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. So yeah, so continue your story. So what a journey, man. That last effort to go for Hajj is really inspiring because
That
it
was my
shows.
last resort because I had
Yeah.
so many questions and nobody was able to answer it. And everybody just pray to God that He clears your mind. And after 2 hour sessions with all of the sheikhs, in the end they're like, just do namaz, just do zikr, just do, and it'll clear up your doubts. It's like
Let's talk about that a little bit more. Those sessions. You called these sheikhs or you visited them after Al Maghrib? Like how did you interact with
well,
these sheikhs?
I had a friend, right? He's still a friend of mine. He was good friends with some of the Al Yaqeen place people, you know. So he said that, oh, I have a friend of mine. He has some questions about doubts and all that stuff. So would you mind sitting with him? That's like, oh yeah, yeah. If he can come to my masjid and after Maghrib, we can sit for a little bit, or maybe after whatever. And it's like, yeah, sure. So a couple of places my friend took me, you know, from some of these sheikhs. So we sat down and talked to them, and then one of the guy actually had a little session going on for the youth, the doubts of the youth of this time in Brooklyn, right? He
You're
had
the
this
youth now.
little, yeah, he had the little masjid there, and he had this little session. He advertised it on YouTube or whatever, Facebook. That
Yeah.
all the quite somebody can, all the youth. He was trying to take away the doubts from the youth because you know the young kids are all asking this question: what's going on? You know, they have access to Google.
Yeah.
They can check out all these.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I
And
didn't.
one more thing, sorry. I think the reason for that is because young people are they're still not I hate to say brainwashed, but they're not as brainwashed. Like they're basically still considering what they believe. Whereas someone like you know, most people like you just take for granted, isn't it? Like your
I
age,
I
my age.
call it, yeah, I call it in Pakistan, in our community, you are told what to think, not how to think. Over here, they focus on how to think, but over there, it's a focus on what to think. You know,
Yeah.
So I didn't want to disturb this class because I don't. The guy is trying to teach the young kids and all that. So I don't want to be like that guy in the middle, like, oh, you. So I said, all right, fine. So I contacted the guy. It's like, can I come and attend your session? And I said, you have. He said, yeah, you can come. I said, I'm gonna come and attend your session. I'm not gonna ask you any question. I'm not gonna even
Yeah.
do. I'm just gonna listen. So he's
Yeah.
like, okay. So all these little young students were all like college students and all that, and I'm sitting in the back. I'm just listening. He's going through the whole the Kalam argument and a lot of the stuff that you were talking, like way back, old stuff. He's just
Uh-huh.
regurgitating that
Yeah.
because Quran.
Yeah.
So after he's done, then I said, listen, your class is over. Your students are gone. Can I sit with you now,
Yeah.
one on one, and actually ask
Oh.
you? So he's
You
like,
put a lot of effort. You put a
oh
lot of
yeah,
effort.
I don't want to misguide people. He put a lot of effort into putting this class up. I don't want to mess up his effort. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
I
Okay.
mean, you put a lot of effort into trying to stay Muslim.
Yeah. I want to be Muslim. Even right now, I'm an agnostic Muslim. I want to be Muslim. Just show me something that can be testable, verifiable. Just don't say that that's how it
Yeah.
is. Show me something. I mean, I was talking to somebody last night. I'll put the video up later on. But
Okay. Yeah.
I asked him, I was like, give me anything that you can tell about the ghaib, about the unseen world
Yeah.
that can be tested or verified or
Yeah.
quantified. If
Yeah.
you can't give me anything that is testable, verifiable, credible,
Yeah.
then what is the difference between that and imaginary?
Yeah.
If I mean, there's got to
Like
be some
angels
difference.
or whatever,
Yeah, let's say angel, right?
right?
Tell me the difference between a unicorn in
Yeah.
your imagination and angel. Give me
Yeah.
the difference
Yeah.
between them.
One's real, one's not.
Yeah, but that's it. Okay, if one is real, show me any way to detect it or test it or even have any sort of evidence
Yeah.
for it.
I like the better example would be prayer,
Okay.
because prayer is something should be testable, should be verifiable, because it's not just it has an effect on us. It cures people, it heals people, it saves lives supposedly,
Hmm.
right? So I think that's the best example,
I
because I
I
mean,
I
time and time, there's a website out there made by some funny atheists called God Hates Amputees. Because I mean, the funny thing is,
yeah.
nobody prays for the little boy to get the arm back that's cut off, or the leg to grow back. They always pray for things that are, you're not really, like, you don't really understand. Oh, he has cancer, and we don't really know that the cancer is really metastasized or whatever, and it's going to kill for sure. The guy's going to die. The doctors think he's going to die, but we don't know. We really don't know. So we pray, because we're like, well, we don't really know, and there's a possibility. So we pray, and it makes us feel better. And the
Hmm.
more, I think, um, the more trapped we are, the more superstitious we become as human beings. Like, sometimes people will say, oh, even atheists, when they're about to die on a plane crash, they'll pray, which
Hmm.
is just proof that we become
These are just
irrational.
like anecdotes and memes. These are just memes. I don't, whatever. But there's one logical problem with prayer,
Yeah.
which I found, which is a very simple logic. I don't know why people don't even ask this logical question about prayer. According to Islam, God has decided everything in advance, right? It is His decision, right? So let's say God decided tomorrow Jimmy will die, right? That's His decision. It's been decided before the world was created, right? Tomorrow Jimmy is going to die. That's God's decision, right? Now, according to Islam, you can pray and maybe God will change His mind. So if you're next day you're praying, hey Jimmy, please don't die. According to them, I prayed to Allah and He saved Jimmy. Let's say if you made a prayer and God
Yeah.
accepted your prayer,
Yeah.
He saved Jimmy and Jimmy didn't die tomorrow.
Yeah.
That means your prayer changed God's mind, right? That's the logical. Now the counter to that is like, no, it didn't change his mind. God was already going to save
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
So okay, so if that's the case, then the day before he already knew that he's going to be saved, so there was no chance of him dying. So your
Yeah.
prayer really didn't do anything,
Yeah.
because that God
It's
was
yeah.
not going to kill Jimmy anyway tomorrow. Like
Yeah.
logically, it doesn't make sense. Your if
Yeah.
you're saying your prayer can change God's mind, that's false. And if you're saying your prayer didn't change God's mind because He already knew it, then what's the point of your prayer? It didn't change God's mind. The plan was going to
Yeah.
happen anyway, just the way. So it's just incoherent. A lot of the prayer situation thing, because it's unfalsifiable. I prayed for today.
Exactly.
Okay,
It's
I'm gonna pray
unfalsifiable.
right now. Look, I'm gonna
Yeah.
pray that tonight is gonna get dark in the nighttime. Oh, please pray. And guess what? It's gonna be dark tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's like so weird.
Yeah, there's so many problems with that, because it's just, the other thing too is that there's all contradictory prayers going on, and worst, I mean, not least of all, we don't really know what's better for us, do we?
Hmm.
And so if you pray for something and you don't get it, they'll say, well, God knew it wasn't good for you. So then why am I praying anyways? If God already knows what's good for me and he's already gonna do what's good for me, then they'll say, well, you're doing it to show your, like, your humility in front of God. It doesn't really matter, but you still do it. So yeah, there's different, I think, excuses that
I
people can
just
come up
love
with.
the analogies. Some of these the Dawa guys and all that, they use these ridiculous analogies of like, oh, you know how this works. It's like if you're in a school and the teacher gives you exam, she already knows who are the good students and what grades they should get, and then but she's still gonna give you the test because she wants to give you the free will for giving the test. But because she's the teacher, she knows you. She already knows you are gonna pass the test and you're not gonna pass the test, and that's what God is like. He's like the teacher. I'm like, what sort of stupid analogy is that? Teacher cannot control your life. Like, teacher didn't make you. Like, you can have actions independent of the teacher. Like, God actually decides what you do. He made you. He wrote down everything that you're gonna do. So you doing the action is God's decision. Can you do something that God doesn't want you to do? Never. Like, according to Islamic faith, right? In Urdu, they say, "Chidiya bhi par nahi maar sakti Allah ki ijazat ke baghair," which means even a bird can't flap its wing without the will of God, right? So technically, every single thing that I'm doing is by God's will, right? So
Yep.
how is that free will if it's by His will? If
Yeah.
he if let's say if I didn't I'm drinking alcohol, right? Boom, boom, boom. I don't drink alcohol, but still, let's say if I'm drinking alcohol, I couldn't have drank that if Allah didn't will it. Allah
Yeah.
willed it for me to drink alcohol. So
Yeah.
who has the control? Do I have the control for this, or He decided and He had the permission for me to drink?
This
The
whole
problem is
issue,
other.
this whole issue of qadr and qada and qadr has caused so many different sects, like the Jamiyas and the Qadariyas, and they're all different people trying to resolve this conflict because it's contradictory at its nature.
They
Like,
went to war over
yeah,
some of these issues, yeah. And I mean, there's so many things. I I don't want to be like anti-Muslim. I want to be anti-religion, like in a common sense, practical thinking, objective thinking, skeptical thinking, be that way. It's not, and this whole title that they give everybody who criticizes Islam is a Islamophobe. That's silly. That title actually works on you and me. We are apostates. So if we are apostate, we should be scared of Islam. So we are really Islamophobe. Like, it's a
yeah,
fear of Islam. Like, that title would actually fit you and me.
yeah,
But in reality, it's like anybody who's anything critical about Islam, all of a sudden they get bashed into this group called Islamophobe, Islam haters. I mean, haters. It's not hate. It's about questioning
yeah.
the claims that you're making. If you're making a claim, all I'm asking you is to show up that claim, back up your claim. But if you can't, then admit you can't back up the claim. Don't give me hypothetical. Well, don't give me answers from Quran to prove Quran. How is Quran true?
Unless it's making,
Quran.
unless it's an actual argument. I mean, don't use the Quran as proof. If the Quran is making a claim, and the Quran's claims are pretty pathetic, like,
See,
oh, they say he's a madman. No, he's not a madman. They say he's this. No, he's not. Like, it's not actually proving anything. It's just. And I remember in one of those Al Maghrib classes, there's one called, I think it was Fiqh of Dawah or something. Muhammad al Sharif said, "Look how the Quran responds to people. It just repeats the question back to them." And he was saying it like this is a good thing. But now, as an atheist, after like listening to Matt Dillahunty and some other people, I'm like, this isn't convincing anyone.
I think Muhammad was doing epistemology, street epistemology. Like, let me get this straight. Did you ask me this question? Uh, no, but what I'm saying is that is why I try not to criticize the Quran,
Yeah,
the theology in the Quran, because the way I look at it is there's no point in criticizing the Quran, because let's say if you have a paradigm that this book is from God, right? If that is your belief, then all other questions go away.
yeah,
All other questions, like if you believe this book is from God, then
Yeah.
doesn't matter what's in there. If it
But
says
like,
four wives instead of five wives, what does it matter? God said four wives, so that's it, done.
but didn't you say that you had problems with Aisha's age and the sex slavery? So like it does cause problems. Like even
Hmm.
with you, it caused problems, eh?
Yeah, but that's because people, like for me, I had too much of a logical, like a critical mind. You can't be so critical and skeptical about things, And my thing was, I was skeptical. I asked question. If you are a background of engineering and you see that you use your common sense with everything, physics, common sense, biology, common sense, math, common sense, religion, no, just believe. Like, what the hell is that? Why are you using intelligence and brain power for everything else you do in your life? And the minute you get to religion, don't think about it. Like,
Yeah,
how does that work?
yeah,
You have to be intellectually honest and use the same criteria for religion too, you know. And but the problem with the religion, you can't use the same criteria because of the indoctrination, the fear of hell. I talked about this in one of my video. I said, in order for you, you know how they the good cop bad cop, in when they get a thief, they take him to the police station and they have a good cop bad cop, and the bad cop basically threatens, oh, I'm gonna take you to jail and you're gonna get this and that, and he threatens the guy so much that his amygdala
yeah,
turns off because his frontal lobe shuts down. That's where
yeah,
the frontal lobe is your critical thinking.
yeah,
So the threats, basically the threat of harm, shuts down the critical thinking part of your brain, and your amygdala, which is your instinct part, takes over.
mhm,
And then in instinct, you only have two choices: flight or fight response. So when you get so scared by these all these threats that this bad cop is doing, then the good cop walks in. He's like,
yeah,
you know what? I'm gonna help you out.
yeah,
Just sign this paper, and I'll.
mhm,
So your fight and flight response is, I have a way out. Let me
yeah,
just go here. And that's how the religion is. They put so much fear of hell and torture, and you're gonna burn in hell, and the torture in the grave, and from childhood they indoctrinate that in your mind, that turns off your critical thinking. Once the critical thinking goes away, your instinct takes over. Instinct is, I don't want to burn in hell. So whatever this Quran says to get me out of this hell situation, I'll say yes to it. And that's how this thing is propagated. And then, since it's propagated from childhood, a child is designed by nature to listen to its parent and believe its parent for its survival. So
yeah,
that property of a child is used against it, because all of this indoctrination is coming from a parental figure or adults. So he that's really sets up in his mind. So I don't blame anybody for not leaving Islam, because it is come very, very hard to actually question your religion. This is one of the hardest thing a person can do. And hats off to anybody who actually critically analysis, questions the religion. Because, dude, if you listen to the description of hellfire in Quran, it is amazing that people even question the religion.
yeah,
That's how much fear is put into humans. So,
yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right. There definitely needs to be a balance between.
getting this question a lot all the time. Why is there a Quran? That's Ayatul Kursi behind me. That's calligraphy. My wife loves it, and
Oh yeah.
boss loves it. So if boss loves it, happy wife, happy life.
I think I still have some of that in my house too. It's
Yeah.
not a, yeah. um, so then now that you've left Islam, I guess there are some challenges there. Being, in a Muslim family and having, Muslim wife and all that and kids. How do you deal with some of this? Like, how do you balance all of these things?
I mean, initially, when I compare it to the four phases of loss. For you have the anger phase, then you have the denial phase, then you have, like, uh, depression phase, and finally you have the reconciliation phase, right? So I went through that same four phases. Like, first off, I was just so angry. Like, how come I been fooled? How come I didn't see all this before? Why didn't I read all of this when I was 20 or 25? Why I spent 40 years and never even researched all of this stuff in detail. So that anger came out, right? So anger came out and lashing out at people. Anybody who would say anything Islamic, I was like, really? Did you know this? Fighting, like a confrontation. Because I want to be like, you know, but that didn't result in good because family problems, fight with your wife. How are you going to have fight with your wife all the time? It doesn't make sense. And my wife is super religious, like, hardcore religious. Praying 5 times, studying Quran all the time, going to all these Islamic classes and all that stuff. So it was hard for her. She's already like, I. You ask her, does it matter? It's like, I don't even want to entertain questions about the religion, right? So then I went into the more of like denial phase. Okay, so these people are not going to listen and this and that. And then I went to the depression phase. Like at one point, I remember for a couple of months, I was like super depressed. I'm like, I lost it. You know, the one thing I didn't want to do ever is to be a non-Muslim, and that's who I am right now. Because I try to avoid it in my mind, like try to keep the cognitive dissonance. No, 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 no. It must be fine. It must be fine. But I never wanted to be not Muslim, right? So that was a depression phase. I went through that, and you could even go into the nihilistic phase if you keep continuing down that route, because that could take you to nihilism, you know but at one point, then I went back to reconciliation. Like, then I understood, then I studied more about all the other religions: Christianity, Judaism, Shinto, Buddha, Hinduism, and all the older religions. And you understand how this is progressed. Daniel Dennett is one of the amazing philosopher on that. His talks are amazing when it comes to the origins of religions. I would recommend that guy. So then I really basically understood how this whole system works. I was like, okay, yeah, now I get a better idea. So then I kind of reconciled myself. And then I was like, what is important? Is it important for me to just constantly be right and fight with my wife about these issues? Or, and then that will logically lead me to a divorce, right? Or is it more important for me to be in my children's life and try to give them an alternate perspective about reality? They are already getting enough, more than enough from this side about hellfire and this and that. And I mean, I'm not even gonna get into that, but some of the things my kids talk about sometimes when they listen to the lecture and then they repeat that, I'm like, oh my God, I can imagine. This is how indoctrination is done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to be there for my kids' life, so I can
Yeah.
actually. So then he's like, don't do this. You're gonna burn in hellfire. I don't want. I want to be an alternate voice. Like, do
Yeah.
you think that is real? I mean, why don't you think about this story? If they're reading a story of the prophet, I was like, okay, or Nuh al Islam, or guy living in a fish stomach and all that stuff. So
Goodness.
I want to
Yeah.
be. I want to give a rational outlet to them. Also, it's like, really. Do you really think this is how it happened? Don't I show them some videos about evolution and this and that? I want them to at least have a critical mind.
Mhm.
If I'm not going to put that into their like an alternate, who is going to do that?
Yeah.
They're already getting so much from one side. So I said, no, I don't want to be outside my kid's life. I want to be in, and
Yeah.
for that, if I have to make some compromise, I'll make some compromise.
Yes. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
basically, that's where I made the compromise. Like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
I'm not going to discuss it with my wife about religion. I'm not going to bother her. I'm not going to hammer on her because I hear some issues and I feel like, uh, um, hmm, you know,
Bite your tongue, right?
oh yeah, you sit with your family members and in-laws, and they're talking about Islam and they're talking about this and that, and they talk about this one good hadith, and seven other hadiths that goes counter to that, and you're like, well, yeah, yeah, okay, okay, okay.
You can't. You want to say it, but you can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I actually studied the sources. They just went to the khutbah and they
Yeah.
listened to this guy, Maulvi, say that, and they never went into the detail of the actual hadith. Like,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
didn't read the actual tafsir on that ayah. They just took that ayah. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. The biggest surah that everybody keeps saying, right? Quran says, if you kill one man, you
Yes.
killed everybody, and if you save one man, you saved all a civilization, or
Yeah.
something like that. They keep
Yeah.
saying that, and in the news and why don't you actually read that ayah? That's just like one line from the middle of the ayah.
Yeah.
Actually, just for a second, actually read the whole ayah and see what it actually says. You'll be amazed what that actual ayah says. It starts off as, "Oh, Bani Israel." It's
Yeah.
not even addressing the Muslims. It's Muslims. It's addressing the Bani Israel. It's addressing the Jews. That, hey, in your book it says, if you kill one, you kill humanity, and if you save one, but that is for the Bani Israel. For
Yeah.
you people, if anybody goes against Islam, you cut their hand from opposite sides and you crucify him. It's like, oh my God, they don't even read the whole ayah. They just take that one quarter of a line from that ayah. Like, "Ah, you see how amazing it is? Like,
And that actually comes from the Talmud, right?
yeah, that is from the Talmud. And
Yeah.
even in the Quran, that ayah actually is not addressing the Muslim, they're addressing the Bani Israel,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, and I'm sitting there and they're talking about this, and I'm like, oh, I can't say, because I told my wife, okay, I'm not gonna argue with your family, my in-laws, because she's gonna get in a hard time because they're gonna be
Yeah.
like, what the hell is wrong with your husband,
Yeah.
So, but at least now they know that I'm not religious, so they are like, oh, it's Asr time, everybody do the Jama, and I'm sitting in the back, on my phone, and they're doing their prayer, and then they're like, oh, it's Maghrib time, all the kids get together doing the Salah, da, da, da. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, you know what? I'll get the grocery that I had to get for you guys. And I'm
Do you ever hear how come Baba doesn't have to pray?
yeah, no, they had like no. At one time they did, and my wife told them, listen, Baba is going through some issues right now. Just leave him
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
He'll come back to his senses later on.
Yeah. It is awkward. I mean, I remember like at my grandma's funeral, like I mean, I was disgusted. I mean, that they were praying. I mean, it's an ayah from the Quran, right? It's a dua from the Quran at the end of Surah Baqarah, where you pray for victory over the disbelieving
Mm.
people, right? And I'm like, I'm a disbelieving person. We're in Canada. We're all disbelievers here, except for like Muslims. I mean, why are we praying, making prayers like this? It's just so stupid.
This
And
is
if
this
it
is one
wasn't
of the
if
this
it
is one of
wasn't like
the
a
yeah.
situation where my grandma died, I mean, I'm not gonna go bring that up. I mean, that's useless. I don't even care. But I'm just saying it was annoying. I felt like irritated to hear that because I know what it means. They said it in Arabic, not in English, obviously. I know exactly what they're saying. I don't. By the way, the funny thing is, I don't think anyone else in my family except my brother understood the dua and his wife because they know a little bit of Arabic. Like they're religious, they're like very religious family. But the rest of my family, they're like, moderate Muslims. They don't know Arabic. They don't even know what they're praying. So they
Right.
don't know what the hell this guy is saying. They're just saying, Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. I know, but I'm not going to bring up an issue like that at that. If it was like a neutral situation where I'm just at like some wedding or something, or like, I might even tell them like, this is not a good dua. I don't think we should say that. But like in a family situation like that, I'm not going to go bring up.
Mm.
That's just petty if I'm going to do it. But anyways, I'm still allowed to be upset about it, right? So
This is one of the biggest contradiction I see in Quran. It's like the Quran basically divides humanity into two sections: believers and non-believers.
and
What?
Munafiq, right?
Yeah, non-believers. Like anything is the believers and the non. What sort of dichotomy is that? Like, what type of religion is that divides all of humanity between believers and non-believers? Everything different rules for the believers, different rules for the non-believers. What no like that doesn't make sense. How are you going to divide in on that basis that if you believe this or you don't believe that you're a kafir? Yeah.
Yeah, this whole thing, I mean, if you think about it, this whole thing about dividing the world into believers and disbelievers, this is a Abrahamic thing as well, like in general. Like even Christians do this. All the believers go to heaven, all the disbelievers go to hell. I think Islam is worse in this case, especially if you like a Salafi like interpretation, because Salafis they implement this wala and bara, right?
Oh
This,
yeah,
like allegiance and disallegiance. I remember being taught that
we
we
love
shouldn't.
for the sake of Allah and we hate for the sake of Allah.
Yes, exactly. And we shouldn't even live in non-Muslim countries. We should migrate to Muslim countries, and we should not be friends with the disbelievers. I mean, all of this is in the Quran and Sunnah, but they actually take it seriously.
Yeah.
Like Salafis take it seriously, I'm saying. And so yeah, I think Islam takes the next step. But Islam eliminated racism, brother.
Yeah, especially racism of like prophet having black slaves and trading three black slaves for one girl. I think he traded like 7 or 8 of the
But
his
Sophia?
slaves. Yeah, Warsaw. And then
Yeah,
at other places he traded different slaves for different, like,
yeah,
okay, I'll give you these 3 black slaves for this one Arab slave or something like
yeah,
that. You've seen it's all in the hadith if you read it.
yeah.
And how is that like make sense? And they said, no, no, Islam told us to free the slave. I said, yeah, Islam told us to free the slave. You know what you need to free a slave? A slave! You need a slave to free a slave. So it didn't dismiss slavery. Like,
No.
what the hell?
Yeah.
You need a slave. Like, they said, no, Allah couldn't just dismiss this whole paradigm right off the bat. Well, really? Allah took 1 day to dismiss riba, right? Like you said, 1 day, like tomorrow, no more
Yeah.
riba. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, no, we can't do it right off the bat. Okay, fine, great. Okay, let's do it like he did it with alcohol. He told alcohol, well, don't pray when you're drunk.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one step. Next step is like, don't drink when you're gonna be in religious thing. Okay, that's next step. And final step, hey guys, stop drinking. So it took within Prophet's lifetime, within a certain sermons, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step process, alcohol is banned. Okay, great. Why couldn't he do the same thing with the slavery? It's like, hey guys, free your slaves, give them employment, give them whatever, and then the last step, hey, no more slavery at all.
There's another big problem with the paradigm that Muslims are using, which is that other societies managed to eliminate slavery even before Islam. I mean, I
Mhm.
think I'm trying to remember the examples now, but there's, like, I looked it up earlier, and there's other pre-Islamic societies, whether it's, I forget, was the Greeks or Romans or what it was, but they had already like better rules for treatment of slaves, and they were actually eliminating slavery even before Islam. Because Islam, the thing sometimes people don't realize is that the Muslim society was very insular, meaning the Arabs at that time, they were kind of cut off from the rest of the world in to some extent. So sometimes we find that the knowledge of science was actually far more advanced in other societies, and they didn't have access to it. So like the whole flat earth thing, they were Greek philosophers saying things like the I think it was, I forget who it was Aristotle or Thales, who said the earth is like a ball, right, with like layers on top of layers. That was his understanding of what the earth that we lived on, and hanging in the sky. He actually said like a ball hanging. But this was before Islam, but the Muslims at that time, the Arabs at that time, didn't know about this. So they thought it was flat. I mean, it's obvious from the Quran that it's pretty much flat, right?
I mean,
So
that is not very surprising because at that time, many civilizations thought the Earth was flat. It's not like,
exactly.
I mean, this whole thing. I give it. I like. What's the big deal? Like, I mean, the time that Muhammad lived in, at that time, it was a general consensus the Earth is flat. And if you understand that, then you read some of the ayahs. It makes perfect sense. Go from the east to the west. You know, he went to the end of the east and he went to the end of the west, like Zulkarnain story and all that stuff. And others ayahs, if you put a sense in your mind, like let's say a guy who believes it's a flat earth, and then you read all of these ayahs, perfectly fine, it makes sense. And then if a person believes that the earth doesn't revolve around the sun, the earth is the center of the universe, and the sun and the moon revolves around it, as a Bedouin of that time would think, right? You're looking in this desert and looking up, and the sun comes and goes down like that, and then the moon comes and goes down like that. That's what you would think. That's exactly how the ayahs are written. The sun cannot take over the moon, and moon cannot take over the sun. Each of them are going in their orbit. I mean, perfectly fine. Why are you going to be, now that you understood that no, that doesn't work that way? Fine, we know, but at that time they didn't know. So the Quran is written exactly how a person would think. How the sky, Allah is the one holding the sky up. Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because you think everything is done by Allah. So you don't see columns anywhere. I mean, can you imagine? Quran says, "Do you see columns holding up the sky?" Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but as a Bedouin of the 7th century, it's like, yeah, I don't see any columns.
Yeah.
Something must be holding this thing up. Is
Yeah.
a covering on top of us.
Yeah.
Something. So since I can't see it, Allah is amazing. Allah is probably holding it up.
Yeah.
You can contextualize it based on the time and place that it was written. You know,
Exactly.
you get in
Exactly.
problem when you're a Salafi because now you have to take everything literally. Allah
Yeah.
has a shin. Allah has two right hands. You have to take
Yeah.
everything literally. That's where the problem happens. That's where
Yeah.
the cognitive dissonance happens. Your
Yeah.
brain knows it's false, but now your brain also knows you can't say it's false. So
Yeah, not all Salafis do that. Like I know as a Salafi Muslim, I didn't obviously have any problem with a spherical Earth and heliocentrism. I mean, I didn't believe that the Earth was the center of the universe and the sun and the moon. I know that some Salafis do think that. They're the minority, to be honest. But the Salafis, like for example, Bin Baz, he thought the Earth was flat. And he said anyone that says the earth is not flat is a liar. I mean, that's a quote that's attributed to him. I haven't looked into whether it's a correct quote or not. But the quote I was talking about just now was Plato. If man could soar high above the clouds, earth would resemble one of those balls which have leather coverings in 12 pieces and decked with various colors of which color, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so that's Plato, and that's in one of his writings. So
wow.
this is way before Islam. And it's like you would think he's the one that talked to God. Like what he's saying here is much closer. I mean, it's much closer to the reality of our universe and what we know. And I love to read history because I think history kind of shows us that if you study history and you learn these things, you don't fall for this nonsense. Oh, the Quran was the first one to say this, and the Quran was the first. No, none of those claims are true. The Quran is not even trying to be the first one. I mean, Muhammad wasn't trying to appeal to any of these things. He was just saying what he knew. And like you said, like the way you put it is so beautiful. Like if you contextualize it, he was just quoting 7th century science. He wasn't trying to convince anyone. But now you have, these Muslims that are saying, oh no, this is talking about quantum this and that and holding up the molecules and like what?
You think it's hard right now? Imagine when Elon Musk is going to set up a settlement in Mars.
Yeah.
And then you will have interstellar space travel. Now you have groups of people living in Mars, and a lot of the Quran ayat has like it's contextualized to Earth only. So now what are we gonna do? How are they gonna be raised up in here when they're buried in Mars? Like their bodies are supposed to come out from the grave, right? And they're supposed to walk to, so like all of those issues are gonna come up when you have already things gonna.
What happens if you're buried in space, right?
Exactly. I mean, like you're gonna have a lot of problem with that sort of stuff. How are you gonna just you're in Mars and the Mars is going around the sun. Now the sun is in the middle. Where is the Earth? So where's my Qibla? I don't know what to do. That's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, that issue we've already run into because I think it was the Malaysian astronaut or the one from Abu Dhabi that had to figure out how to pray in space. So they're taking these medieval beliefs and they're like still holding on to them in a.
Can you imagine the guy who is praying in the space station, right?
Yeah.
Somebody walks by and touches him. He's like rotating. I was like, oh no, I was supposed to be this way.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many silly things like that. But I mean, I think it's going to get harder and harder to justify a lot of the things that the older religion says as you get more enlightened. The problem with Islam is whatever happened with Christianity, the Reformation, hasn't happened to Islam yet. Christianity ran into this wall when the printing press came out and everybody had access to the Bible, that they had to go through a Reformation. They had to face it. And after the Reformation, now Christianity doesn't have the teeth in there. So it's like basically just a religion. And people realize, hey, this is regular, this is reality, this is a religion. Okay, keep it separate. But Muslims, the Islam has not gone through a reformation yet. And they are literally, because Islam basically banned the printing press. So that reformation never happened. They are behind 100 or so years. But then I think the reformation is happening because of the internet. The internet is doing same to the Islam as what printing press did to the Christianity at that time.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
So I'm not following the chats because I'm talking. But
no.
If you have any questions and all that stuff, you can ask in the chat, and I'm sure.
So we if you guys don't have any questions, we can now start taking them. And I wanted to ask you about you said you read Sapiens. Was it Sapiens you read?
Yeah, Sapiens.
And you said you've listened to Daniel Dennett. Can you share like some of what you've learned from them, or what you thought that was profound or interesting, or even Matt Dillahunty, some of these guys that you listened to?
I mean, there's so much, as you know, and it's hard to even pick out that. I like one quote I'm going to share some of the quotes I like from each one because it'll be too much to go into a lot of detail. But one of the quotes I love about Matt Dillahunty is, I like to believe the least amount of false things and the most amount of true things. I love that quote, you know? It's like amazing. Like, yeah, because when a Muslim is like, why don't you just believe? So what? Just pretend to believe. What's the problem? No, I want to believe the least amount of false things and the most amount of true things. You know, I like that quote. Another quote I like, I think it's one of them, is like, not from him, but a person convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I love that because you can try to convince anybody. Would a person convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So that helps me a lot when you're arguing with somebody and you're like forcing them to go to your point. And if you force them in the end, they're like, fine, fine, you're right. They don't think you're right.
That's a good point, because that also applies to people that are saying just believe in Islam. You can't just believe.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no,
not up to you.
exactly. It's
When they
not.
say that, I say the same thing. I said, why don't you just believe in Ram tomorrow? Like, okay, if it's just as simple as belief, right? You can choose to believe, right? Why don't you just believe in Ram tomorrow? Like,
Yeah.
why that is a problem? Why?
Yeah.
You're telling me the same thing, right? Just believe. You just
Yeah.
decide to believe. Why can't you just decide to believe in Ram tomorrow?
Yeah.
Either you're
Exactly.
convinced or you're not convinced. It's
Yeah.
simple. And the Daniel Dennett is the thing I liked about him. He talks about religion as a meme, you know, religion as a meme, and he goes through the evolutionary process. You know how he explains how sheep, right, domesticated sheep, is basically how smart was a sheep to find a shepherd. It offloaded all the work for protection,
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
and all that to the shepherd. In return, the shepherd gets the wool from the sheep, right? But he said, in the end, the shepherd kills the sheep too. So, I mean, if you, I'll send you some links of the videos. His videos are amazing, and he talks about how religion develops over society. Like, you know, we are living in, we know everything is done by agency. If
Sorry,
a
who is this again?
Daniel Dennett,
Oh, Daniel Dennett. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah, that's his stuff. Is I love his stuff, and he talks about like when we were in the earlier stages of our civilization, everything was based on agency. If you see a wind, if you see leaves moving, you know because the wind moved them. So
Yeah.
you would understand there's something behind a movement, right? So same way, if the tree is moving, there's something behind the tree that like wind or something, right? It is part of our psyche. So if thunder comes down, something has to be sending the thunder. So that led to people like, well, if thunder comes down from the sky, there has to be something in the sky. What is
Yeah.
the most powerful thing in the sky?
Yeah.
Sun
Yeah.
and the moon. Okay,
Yeah.
so they must be God. They must be the one controlling it. So it goes step by step through how people evolved into. First they used to believe the nature was God, but then they're like, let's go one step further, the sun and the moon, because they are God. No, let's go a little bit further. Oh, if sun and moon are God, then there must be other gods for
Yeah.
controlling the wind, controlling the water, controlling
Yeah.
that, you know. So he progresses down, 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 and down all the way down to monotheism,
Yeah.
monotheism. So that gives you a much better idea how religion developed. And once
Yeah.
you understand that and you put that paradigm on each of the religion, you see exactly that's what's happening. And he says each religion is designed based on the location it is at. You see the paradise of Islam has
Yeah.
palm trees and tents, and people are sitting in tents on flowing rivers of milk.
Yeah.
I mean, if
And
that
babies and
doesn't tell
propaganda.
you, if that doesn't tell you that Islam was for a desert dwelling people, nothing else will. You talk about the paradise of the Nordic people, you know, the Thor and all that.
Yeah.
Their paradise was that because they were a warrior society, they used to fight, and their whole life was about fighting with each other. And as a warrior clan,
Mhm.
their heaven is that if you die as a warrior, you will be allowed to sit on a dining table in front of Thor. Not Thor, Odin. Odin is the father god.
Yeah.
All day long, you will fight in battles and die as a warrior, And then the evening, Odin will call you for dinner, and you will get back alive and come and sit and have a feast with Odin. And the next morning, you wake up and go to battle and fight each other, kill each other, and you'll die. And then Odin will invite you to dinner, and you'll be alive. And that's their version of paradise. And their version of hell is a frozen tundra, not fire, a frozen tundra, because that's where they were. Their worst idea was being stranded in the cold. So their religion reflects that. See, I mean,
Amazing.
when you contextualize each of these things, then you get a much better idea how these development of, why is there no mention of kangaroos and things like in Quran, or other animals? Because they didn't have access to those animals there.
Yeah.
Whatever. They didn't have any access to America. They had no idea America even existed. So it's
Yeah.
not mentioned there. None of that stuff. So the Bible or Torah talks about olive trees and the this bushes and that bushes and all that stuff. How did that come into the Torah? Because that's what the people of that time were familiar with, you know. So is I don't want to ramble on, but there's so much information out there that you can get access to and really study it, and you'll get a understanding what all this, what this whole game is all about. You know.
Indeed, indeed. I remembered one thing, just to go back to the previous topic for a minute, about the wife and kids thing.
Hmm.
When I'm in a similar situation to you, but probably a little bit better. I can't really talk about the details so much, but I will say one thing, which is that, oh yeah, well, so in my case, my wife was told by other Muslim women to leave me because I would be a bad influence on the kids. I still think this is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard, because I'm still going to be an influence on the kids. This is not a Muslim country. You can't take my rights away. Fuck that. I'm going to be in my kids' lives. No one's going to take my kids away from me. No fucking way. And so, in Muslim countries, I've heard the opposite. And I know a Pakistani guy who told me, oh man, I hate to talk about this stuff. It's so depressing. But his wife basically tricked him into admitting he was an apostate over the phone. She recorded it. And I mean, ex-wife, wife, whatever, right? And, she basically took the kids away. And he has no way to get the kids back because he's an apostate and she has evidence. So, man, it's so messed up. But in the West, I mean, whether you're here or there, you're still going to be in their lives anyways. And that's what I told my wife. I mean, so stupid. Like, what do you think? I'm not going to die. I'm still here. Hello. I'm still going to have access to them, joint custody. But at least, we have some protection from in a non-Muslim country. We have protection from these evil, I'm just going to call them evil laws, like these nasty laws that basically support, bad treatment of non-Muslims, right? Basically, because if you're a non-Muslim, if you even if you leave Islam, you no longer inherit from your father, your mother, because you're now an apostate, and a non-Muslim, according to the rule, does not inherit from a Muslim. So there's all sorts of situations that can happen if you're a Muslim and you leave Islam and you still have a Muslim family, because of the sort of laws around all of these things that are really bad, right? Like, and they kind of put pressure on the woman to leave. In my case, I'm a little bit luckier because my in-laws are not Muslim, and they don't care. I mean, they're happy, whatever. They're like, yeah, he's not Muslim. They're happy that at least now, like, I don't have as much issues with other stuff. Like, they don't have to pray. Kids don't have to pray anymore. And they don't have to eat halal food. We can go out anywhere, do McDonald's and all that shit. I mean, it's just like we're just living like a typical normal family now, without having to like come up with all these workarounds that we had to do before. Because I mean, I remember once traveling to my in-laws in Ramadan, and I'm like there reading Quran and fasting all day, and it was tough. It was actually tough, because how do you really enjoy, seeing your family members, non-Muslim family members, like in-laws, when you're in a different world altogether? You're like in this religious thing, and they're like not religious. And yes, we still had a good relationship, but my relationship has improved with them now, right? I mean, in my case, I'm lucky in that sense. I don't have that sort of pressure, but I do think that what you're doing is the right thing. And at the end of the day, my dad was kind of like the situation you are in now, in a sense. Not like he didn't raise us to be religious, but he was always like, even when I became this religious guy, he was always accepting, and he said, it doesn't matter what you are, I will always support you. He helped me to get married, even though he's like, I think you're kind of young. I got married when I was 21. He's like, I think you're kind of young to get married, and I think you should finish your university and whatever. And I'm like, no, I want to get married now. And he's like, okay, I'm going to help you. And he helped me to find a place. And, you know, he was a really wonderful dad in all ways, all the goods. And so from that perspective, I think that's the best thing that we can be, you know, as fathers, we can be there for our kids, whether they're religious or not, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with my kids and our family is religious, but they are religious in the sense of just the good part of the religion. They are not like the bad part of the religion. Not bad. I wouldn't say bad part. Like jihad and
Yeah. Well, that's
infidels
yeah.
and all that stuff. They don't even know that all that stuff is there. Like they've never read the like in my back my wife's family and my family, they don't read the Islamic sources. They just listen to whatever the Maulvi says, and the Maulvis and the khutbahs or the Jummas are all sugar coated, nice, or the nice things about the Prophet and all that stuff. So in our family, we don't have any sense of like hatred towards any other culture and things like that. So that's fine with me. And a lot of the I admit a lot of the rules of Islam, certain things of morality and all that, they are good. Take care of your parents and take care of the orphans and all that. So I don't have a problem with all of that stuff as long as you're not indoctrinating with the bad stuff, you know, thing. So I let my kids listen to the Islamic lectures and all that stuff. But if that's the only thing they're listening to, they won't be able to think for themselves. So I want to be part of their life because if I keep pushing this envelope with my wife, as you know, Islamic law, what it states,
Yeah.
it's an automatic divorce, right?
Yeah.
And that would mean that I would have less access to my
Yeah.
kids as I want. I want to have access to my kids so I can give them some sort of upbringing of having a free thought, critical mind. They want to be Muslim, fine. If they choose to be Muslim, not a problem. Go ahead, choose. But at least think about it. You know, don't just follow it blindly. Actually think about it, make a decision. I think if Islam was only taught after a kid is 18, you would not have too many Muslims. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but that I think yeah, that's it is a tough thing, and I have to make some compromises, and I
Yes.
understand that I make my compromises with my wife because I see what is more important to me. You know, everything has a level, and
Yeah.
I love my wife and I want to be with my wife. She loves me. She wants to be with me. But at the same time, I understand it's not her fault. She
Yeah.
didn't sign up for this. When
Yeah.
she signed up for the marriage, she signed up to a marriage to a Muslim guy, right?
Yeah.
So it's not her fault that I broke the agreement. I
Yeah.
changed, right? Not her. So why
Yeah.
does she have to pay for what I did?
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. It's not her fault. Her contract is still what? She's still a Muslim girl. She's still following all the things. So she's keeping her side of the bargain. I'm the one who nigged on my side of the bargain of I will stay a Muslim with you, right?
Mhm.
So why should I make her life difficult because of my choices?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a difficult balance for many people, as to how do I, balance the fact that I'm an atheist and my wife is Muslim, or vice versa. My husband is Muslim and I'm an ex-Muslim atheist woman. And it's tricky. It's definitely, you need a lot of compromise. You need a lot of love and consideration, and you need to be patient. And that's why I was giving the example of my dad. I think that his approach is really good. Just look at the long term. Look at what will happen in 10 years, not just 1 year, not just 6 months later, but put in, try to teach, like you said, the really good skills about how to evaluate claims, and how to all of those things. So that being said, so I don't see any other questions. So while I'm just waiting, and I think we've had you for a long time, so I'm going to let you say any final words you have. But before you do that, I just want to make an appeal that if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. Hit the like button as well if you're enjoying the stream. Those of you who are on TikTok, welcome to my first live stream on TikTok. This is an experiment. I hope it went okay. And for those of you on YouTube and you are already subscribers and you're liking the content, and look at that. I was just about to say, consider becoming a YouTube member. So welcome, Dolly, for joining the channel and being a YouTube member. Dolly is also supporting me on Patreon. So thank you, Dolly. You're actually supporting me on 2 different platforms now. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Those of you who would like to join, the money does help. And I am growing a team. I have people helping me with editing videos. I don't know if you guys saw the last video I did. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, no, I saw that one. That was really well done.
Yeah, and this is not something that I have the time to really do on my own. It's just not possible with 5 kids. You know the struggle. Full-time job, raising your kids, spending time with your wife and family members, and then on top of it, activism.
It takes a lot of time. Some people think like making a YouTube video is like, not a big deal, but no, it takes a lot of time. But like thinking up the thing, saying the content, editing it, and then putting it, and especially you're on the cutting edge. You're like trying all these different platforms and at the cutting edge of like pushing the envelope. Okay, let me do TikToks and Instagram, and like you're like really putting effort into it. So yeah.
I didn't really have much success with Instagram, to be honest. And that's why I didn't.
I'll give you a good shortcut. I've noticed that YouTube. I'm gonna try doing that today because I just found out about it yesterday. Since TikTok is very popular, YouTube wants to counter that effect. So what they launched is YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, I saw that.
And what they said is that YouTube is actually putting a little bit more effort in promoting the shorts. And because now it's a cutting level playing field because it's a new thing. So they said, hey, that's a good opportunity. And I think that would be something, since you're already on TikTok, you have the vertical profiles, videos and all that. You can actually repurpose some of your older videos into YouTube Shorts. And that could be a good avenue for subscribers and all that.
Yeah, I'm going to respond to that, and then I want to read one of the comments. Sure. So I tried that, and I actually did a vote, and I was getting mixed. So I built my platform on a certain type of content that people are looking for. And so I did a vote, and I said, what type of video length do you like? Do you like 1 to 3 minutes, basically like up to 10 minutes, or like the long ones? And most people voted, I think 80% voted for like, around 10-15-minute videos. So what I've decided is to repurpose the TikToks. I'm going to make, and I've started on this already. I have someone working on it right now. I'm making basically TikTok compilations. So once a week, I will upload. I haven't even announced this yet, but once a week, I'll upload all of them joined together into one long video. So because people are looking for like, a little bit longer videos on YouTube, at least my audience. So yeah, I do think that, the TikTok thing, again, it was an experiment, and I think it's going well because it seems to be going well, so I'm just going to continue doing it. But also because the fact is people like me have a tough time in general with social media. So we need to kind of like spread eggs among many baskets. As you know, I lost the main monetization on the main channel.
That was bad. And it's so messed up because they're going after channels like you and Apostate Prophet, David Wood, and all that stuff. And it is coming down to a totalitarian thing that they are protecting Islam for whatever reason, and they are trying to silence any voice that goes against Islam. So I don't know. It is kind of.
It seems like things might be changing. Like we'll see if they continue applying these same rules to everybody, then even a lot of lefties are going to get hurt by the censorship. I just want to read this comment. Bay Yaqeen, you sound like a wonderful level-headed father. Kudos to you for breaking the cycle of typical Desi dad. Ex-Muslim Pakistani.
Thank you, whoever you are. Ex-Muslim Pakistani. What was that?
So, yeah, I want to read one more comment here. I have no idea why Muslims come here. Well, I would hope Muslims come here.
Yeah, I want Muslims to come here, obviously.
We're not just talking just for like, we're not just, why are we here?
Yeah, right? No, our content is more directed towards Muslim, should be more directed toward Muslim than non-Muslim, because the ex-Muslim are already there. They already crossed the level. Our content is more geared toward, hey, the questioning Muslim. the Muslim who has some doubt about it. Those are the people we are addressing, not the ex-Muslim. They're already there, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you want to give any final last words? I mean, this has been great. We should have you on again for sure. Maybe with Hal Sultan, or maybe when we do the next call-in
Oh
show.
yeah, I
And
forgot to give credit to Haris Sultan, Ghalib Kamal, and those are the Urdu channels, and he makes content in Urdu and English. Most of my videos are in Urdu because I think that's my niche. Since I can speak Urdu, there's not a lot of people in from with the Urdu language doing the content. So I try to make 70% of my videos in Urdu, and then 10%. What I do is I make the thumbnail, and I put on the thumbnail on the left if the thing is in Urdu or English. So if you go to my channel, as soon as you see the thumbnail, look on the left. If it says Urdu, you don't need to listen to that. If
are
it's in
you,
English,
so there's one channel for both content. Is that what you said?
I wanted to make two channel,
Yeah.
one in English, but then that's a lot of. I thought it would dilute the whole thing because I'm a small channel, so it's like there'll be like 5 subscribers here and 7 over here, so it doesn't make sense. So I said,
Yeah.
forget it. I'll just make one channel, and then on the video, I'll just put on the thumbnail if it's in Urdu, and on the description, I'll say Urdu or English.
Great idea. I think that's good for now. Obviously, if you can obviously evaluate that in the
Yeah,
future.
if later, let's say if I blow up like you guys, like 27,000 subscribers, whatever, then maybe I might split the channel to English content and Urdu content.
Yeah, exactly. So, would you like to add? So, I have your channel linked in the comments and pinned. So, if anyone wants, and it's in the description as well. So, please do check
Oh,
out.
there it is. One world. Can you highlight this comment? One world,
Yep,
many writers.
this one.
Yeah, the gentleman I was talking to about that I had a conversation with. That's this gentleman. I have his video. I'm gonna edit it and put it within this week.
Oh,
So
nice,
yeah,
nice, awesome. You had a conversation with him.
yeah. But the last night he was talking to me, so I ended up doing 1 hour of talk with him, and then I looked at the OBS software, and my mic was turned off for 1 hour. So it only recorded his voice, not my voice. I'm like, what? And it was such a cool conversation,
My
and I
God.
lost all of that. So I said, then I turned on the mic and had another 1 hour conversation of other topics. So I had that part there, but I lost the 1 hour of conversation. I didn't even realize my mic was off.
So any last final words you want to add before
Final
we?
word is
Yeah.
thank you. That's the biggest thing I can say. Samir, you are one of the pioneers, earlier people that made me understand a lot of these things and had the courage to come out and talk about these things. So before anything else, I would thank you for your videos and the work that you're doing, and that is phenomenal. Don't let anybody put you down. I know people make fun of things about you and all that stuff. Don't let it put you down. You're doing amazing work. And as far as the people who are listening to me, listen, I'm not the best example. So don't go for the person, go for the content. If you have any issue with the content, talk about the content. Nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. A lot of the stuff I say sometimes is not correctly referenced. Sure, I understand that. But off the cuff, sometimes it's very hard to say that. But if you are having doubt in Islam, understand that you're not the only one. There have been millions of people before you have had questions about the religion and doubt. Don't just dismiss your doubt because you're like, no, something is wrong with your brain. No, there are actual things that are valid in the religion that you can have doubts about and questions about. Ask the Imam, ask the Maulvi, but at the same time, verify what they're saying. Just because somebody's Maulvi or Imam or whoever lecturer, Dawa guy told you something, verify that. Because a lot of time there's an agenda behind it. And if you don't see the sources of what it actually says, you might be getting only one side of it. And lastly, educate yourself. There is no excuse now with Google and YouTube. There is no excuse for you to say that we came from monkey. Then how come there are still monkeys? I mean, there is no excuse now to say these sort of things. Okay,
Yeah.
so any question, I would say any question you have, just use that question, write it down in Google and search, and you'll get at least some of the answer that you're looking for. So thank you once again, and guys, like I never thought I would say that, but guys, subscribe to my channel. Thanks, like like a YouTuber, right? Hey guys, come to my channel, subscribe.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely the link is there for everyone. And I forgot to mention that this is now a podcast. So this is going to be on the podcast as well as episode 82. Do check it out if you feel like listening to it. I should have said this at the beginning, but anyways, you can listen to this on podcast apps, so you don't have to watch it. You don't have to download this in giant video. You can just listen to it because I post audios of it. So the only reason to do that is just to make it easier for you guys to listen to and to enjoy the content. So you can check it out on iTunes, Stitcher, blah blah blah, Google Podcasts, or whatever app you want to use. Just look up Abdullah Samir, friendly ex-Muslim, and it's off. And anyways, so thank you all for joining me. I don't know when the next live stream is going to be, but I'm planning to do another one by myself. So hopefully I'll do that soon. Maybe tomorrow, if I don't have anything else planned, I will do that, or maybe even tonight. Should be fun. I'm looking forward to connecting with everyone. And thank you, Bay. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you again on the channel, I'm sure, soon. Bye.
Definitely take